Welcome to Mommy Heal Thyself. We feature guests who provide you with the tools, resources, and strategies you need to say no to a life of pain and suffering from all forms of preventable disease, toxic drugs, and unnecessary surgeries. We hope to inspire you to boldly reclaim your ability to heal and to serve the ones you love. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Mommy Heal Thyself. And today we have a fantastic guest with us. His name is Dion Powell. He is a native of Bronx and New York political operative with a specialization in strategy. He has over 20 years of collective education, experience, and most importantly, network in the realms of politics, government, and civics. Recently, Dion was featured in 2 viral videos encouraging Trump to come to his native home of the Bronx, Newsmax 1 and Newsmax 2, from being the VP of Student Government at City College of New York to achieving a master's in public education from the Metropolitan College of New York. Dion has always been in the know of how politics and political action works real time in the areas of the Board of Elections, campaign strategies, and legislative policies. Being the chair of the New York State Young Democratic Caucus of Color and a member of the Black Caucus of Young Democrats of America helped him to learn the integral processes of how the Democratic Party works in terms of presidential delegate selection, electoral college membership, and state committee agenda influence. On the other side of the aisle, he collaborated with the Bronx County Conservative Party, the New York Young Republican Club, the Black Caucus, and helped start the Bronx Libertarian Party chapter. His natural specialization is always being in the know of how all of these areas are accessed by African American community to influence their voting record. He has professional experience working for the New York State Assembly and community liaison for the Bronx elected official, plus working on city, state, federal, and presidential campaigns for various political parties. Woo! I tell you, Dion, there's a lot of stuff.
You can keep going because as you are about to get to, my degree is in film. So this means you can stretch for time. So if you want to keep going, then you can do it.
Well, rather than stretch for time that way, I would rather hear it from you yourself, because one of the reasons why we kind of connected is because of the work that you are doing with Blexit. And I am curious to find out what your journey is, how you became part of Blexit, what Blexit is all about, and why we should become more empowered within the political scenes in our community.
Well, let's go through the usual protocols, the formalities, and I'm going to say, thank you, Dr. Gamble, for having me. Remember that? Okay.
Okay.
I'm District Leader Dion Powell of the 78th Assembly District here in the Bronx, New York. And thank you for reading aloud my bio to let me know all the grammatical errors and things that need to be updated. So it's a smoother, easier read, as they say. Now, I'm the Assistant State Director of Blexit, New York, which is Black Exit, started by the infamous Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum, to leave the mental plantation of the, I guess, African-American Black groupthink and break the Black wall of silence and all those other things. But it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Unfortunately, some people do this, and then the white people love it when we do this, and they do this too, because people don't get it. But just like myself, I do this too, but my shrink, which we'll talk about later, hopefully, told me we had a breakthrough when I realized, when you are offensive, people get defensive.
Yeah.
So put that over there.
Yeah.
What we do at Blexit in New York, we have certain pillars, and one of the pillars that we met was school choice. And on the right side of things, as it were, with conservatism, school choice is very big that the African American community should have access to, in which it gives parents options. It's not just public school, and charter schools are evil, and private schools for the elite, and taking money away from public school and students and all this other stuff. So with school choice and Blexit, I give New Yorkers options of school choice that we have here, and also point to other examples in other states that are doing it better. Cliches like money should follow the child, And then other things like New York State pays the most per student. But then again, if New York State pays the most per student, shouldn't we have the best educational system in the country? You know? And this all stemmed from when I became the assistant state director in 2021 with the lockdowns and the mandated COVID vaccines. So I know a lot of people, and Blexit members especially, that lost everything because they refused the jab. Fine. But this has been like the most spiritually fulfilling work I've ever done in my life. I didn't like activists in college. I was in student government, getting things productive, but God humbled me. Now I'm an activist because I was told my job is to activate the people. So the school choice events we did then was around options here in New York City for homeschooling. Because one of our members, she's from Harlem, she's run for office too, like me, and she knows the system. So she pulled her daughter out of the school, did the paperwork for homeschooling because she refused to get her daughter vaccinated, Black woman from Michigan at that. I love her. And as a result of her leadership, over 90 parents pulled their children out of one school. Now, mind you, this is 2021. The principal, social worker, and everybody else couldn't have that. They called ACS, which stands for Administration of Child Services here in New York City, on everybody. But that was throughout New York City. The media didn't cover it, of course, but throughout New York City, all these public schools that were requiring the jab for their children, after they said they would be safe home, remotely learning, and they brought them back into the schools where they weren't cleared. The mayor said it was okay, but he's not a doctor. Enrollment was down, but the teachers union wanted the money to go up, whatever reason. But anyway, so as a result, that's why I said, there's a need here. And I'm not about complaining racism. Oh my God, the system. No, I'm about solutions. So when I did this school choice event, I had the National Black Homeschoolers, National Homeschool Black Educators. I'm brain farting right now. But anyway, the National Black Association of Homeschoolers. Fine, I got it wrong already. I already see it in my head, the acronyms. Anyway, so she comes up in our Zoom sessions and she says, yes, I'm so-and-so, the executive director of National Black Homeschoolers and the National Black Home Educators. Thank you. NBHE, National Black Home Educators. And as a result of 2020 to present, homeschooling in the African-American community has gone from 6% to 17% and growing nationwide. Pretty soon, the African-American, you could Google this, pretty soon the African-American population in America will be the #1 homeschooling demographic. And I can see everybody in Zoom go, oh, and my spirit went through the roof. Then another thing happened. So then I also brought in the National Homeschoolers Defense Association, because a lot of people like New York, they're trying to destroy that whole concept. And so he gets up to Zoom, he says, yes, my name is TJ Smith, and I'm the chief counsel of the National Homeschoolers Defense, and I'm a product of homeschooling. You can feel the entire Zoom go, oh. And then, of course, you had other people come up, explain about how your kids will be normal. Here are the cooperatives. I had the New York Cooperatives regional director on there who's actually in the Bronx with his wife, Christian-based or whatever. And yeah, we'll help you. It's less than a membership fee to a gym monthly for your kid to be a part of our collective and blah, blah, homeschool part. Some people do it themselves, blah, blah. And, we have lawyers, because the fact in our community, people understand that they thought they could just keep their children home to keep them safe, because we have a lot of uneducated family who they have a lot of immigrant population. But TJ Smith in the Homeschoolers Defense, you can't just do that, think you're keeping your children safe. There's a process. There's actual withdrawal form. You could get in trouble if you don't do these things. And so that was good. But what really made my heart melt was a parent, because I like to do networking at the end of my things, like I did at my session. And so one parent comes up with tears in her eyes and said, you know what, my daughter's not getting vaccinated and she's not going to school. I just know where to go do, but because it's Doom session, I have something to do now. I feel hopeful and blah, blah. And my whole but she had tears in her eyes. And so those little things I do at Blexit really charge my battery, because we're the only organization that's like Black African-American centered that actually does it this way, as opposed to the usual go alongs to get on.
Well, I was so encouraged when I was part of your meeting just a little bit earlier in the week. And the reason for that is because I homeschooled my kids over 20 years ago, and to see this kind of upsurge is uplifting, like you said, for us to really recognize our power. On the other side of things, I was a in the classroom teacher. And what I always said to parents is, if you truly want to impact your school, just take your kids out. So I love this concept of Black exit, because this actually is the new kind of boycotting, really and truly, when we think about it. To keep your kid at home and educate your child instead of complaining about the educational system. Let them recognize the power that we have when we choose not to participate in this nonsense. It is amazing. So tell us a little bit more about where you see things going in the future, because I hope that it's not just limited to the jab, but for us to really recognize that it's not simply about whether or not we take the jab, but also everything within the educational system. Are we on board with that? So is that also within the scope of Blexit?
Okay, so we're talking about medical freedom, as they say, with the rights of the jab and then the vaccine injured of people who are dying suddenly, or is it education in general with the future? Is that what you're saying, or just both?
I'm just curious as to where do you see your organization going in the future?
Organization. Okay, yes, yes.
What types of initiatives are you guys going to?
Okay, I can answer that.
Hmm.
All right, so Blexit National or Blexit Foundation with Candace Owens at the top, they have their whole thing with their chapters. We have 46 chapters, I believe, in 45 states in DC. Now, the future is hopeful because right now we're expanding our presence into the HBCUs. You know what that is for our viewers?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Historically Black colleges
And
and universities.
universities. And a lot of people, even I was shocked because I'm like, internal politics. But I was like, wow, I'm surprised because this organization is called a white supremacist controlled hate group with Turning Point USA, the white supremacist, blah, 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 and Uncle Tom's Unusual. But if you guys are able to have these campuses be open to accepting you, where even I've had barriers of bringing our organization into colleges because of all those rumors of hate and racism and blah, 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 that we're doing something. We're making real progress with the critical race theory of thought and ideas. And now it's like they want to expand to other HBCUs. But me, leadership by example, I told my chapter, and I told them in the meeting too, all the executive director and other chapters, I said, you guys are going to have to expand this to the PBIs. You know what a PBI is? Predominantly Black institution. Okay. You see, I like to give the education people need, in which Medgar Evers College here in New York City is a PBI.
Yeah.
And so teaming up with Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn would be ideal for Blexit to get a young people on that campus as a chapter. Because one of our youngest members that I met 2022, she was a student at Queens College and she was bullied because she was a Republican. And so when she met us, she was so great. And I said, you know what? I said this to all the members, you are not alone. You're not the only one that feels that way, that's Black, thinks that way. And it's okay. Just that you have to come amongst the family and the community, usual script, and bam. And she is going so wonderful right now. She wants to start a book club. And the first book she wants to have all the members do is Dr. Thomas Sowell.
So share with our community why that is so significant.
Really? I thought it. Well, I there's a professor of mine, he has a doctorate too. And I don't use this word lightly, but the word genius comes to mind with this Black brother, Dr. Thomas Sowell. YouTube is where it's at. I don't like reading. YouTube is my everything, reading. And he is an academic. One of our members, Dr. Charlene Jackson Mendez, who's a clinical psychologist, said she's been reading Dr. Sowell in the 80s. And you kids everybody's catching up now that the media is telling you that he's a great man, but he's always been a great man. It's just that they hit him in the book and he used to do these PBS interviews where he just breaks it down. And you should see an academic where he has the same trail of thought as Black conservatism from an academic standpoint as an economicist who does economics to prove by the numbers, rationale, reasoning why Black America is where it's at. And he points these things out. He uses his own personal journey as well. And he also uses the white community as an example, poor Irish people, Jewish people, and links all to the commonalities of it. And it's all factually based. And it's not really social emotional learning, because school choice airs out social emotional learning, which is controlling our children in these institutions, but keeping their grade levels and reading level destroyed.
Exactly.
And then you have the drag queen story hour, and then you have the unsafe schools. And that's why more parents are pulling kids out of public school and exercising the school choice options. But that's Dr. Tyler Sowell. So hopefully your viewers will check them out.
So now tell us a little bit more about what kind of people do you find are gravitating towards Black conservatism and to Blexit, and why? What needs are they getting met in that particular area that aren't being met otherwise?
As the saying goes, I'm glad you asked. So right now we have a lot of people from the hood coming to Blexit because New York State, like California is going crazy with Blexit. We're a very liberal, progressive city and state. But a lot of Black people are seeing through the matrix and getting red pilled very easily. The COVID pandemic lockdowns opened up a lot of Black people's eyes. And then people started finding each other in the streets. The New York Freedom Rally, I suggest you check it out. Teachers for Choice and those other organizations, they all came together and brought all our Black people from respective realms, from Ultra Magna in those streets to even Black Lives Matter members in those streets. And Blexit was there as well, and that kind of thing when it first started. Right now, it's dissipated like all movements. So now, people from the streets, when they see Blexit, and we're not scared to go in the hood. Madeline Brain, if you Google her, Fox News, Madeline Brain, her criminal justice work speaks for itself. And I say it all the time, Madeline Brain outshines Candace Owens in credibility, and she's always on Fox News, talking about how these nonprofits make money off of violence in our community and these politicians. And she was protesting in the cold, because I was there with like 8 people yelling outside at District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office. So to answer your question specifically, we're getting all our new people, do-regs and all, and we're teaming up with the New York City Young Republicans, Black Caucus, you know, and other organizations like Aisha Kreutz, who's another member with the Fergus Douglass Institute, and she's doing great things upstate New York on the West Side, and we team with her. And we're giving people one word that's very important, which is access to the oldest world information and education. So some things we're doing is the school choice that I said. Another thing, shout out to Trisha Lindsay. Trisha Lindsay is the only Black female-owned law firm in New York City that took on cases of people who were fired indiscriminately for not taking the vaccine. And so she's one of our partners. Then we're trying to support the Black family, and we have Pastor Pearl Corbin, who's the Bronx, New York 40 Days to Life president, and she's saving Black women from aborting, deleting these babies like nobody's business. But she also has the Halfway House nonprofit, in which if a young lady doesn't have an abortion, they come into a halfway house and she lets them have that baby, and she gives them all tools. So it's called Whole Life, from the womb to the tomb kind of deal. And some other people that have predominance in our chapter. And then we just lead by example, but people just have to see us. In African America Day Parade and these other Black events or other organizations who don't really want to work with us, like NAACP, which I'm a member of, for other regions. And we're just there. And it's like, well, I understand you. You like Donald Trump, and I hate Donald Trump, but your work speaks for itself. So you can only, because I'm going viral about Trump. You know, if you put Bronx, Trump, Newsmax, you might see my thing, because I'm going viral again, because they're using my clip of we want to see Trump in the North Bronx, South Bronx, East Bronx, West Bronx, going viral on all these media outlets. Anytime Trump talks about coming to New York or the Bronx, they play his clip, and now it's going viral because the algorithm has my face with the Bronx hat right here, which was media communications degree from City College of New York, the first film department, product placement.
So now
I'm not gonna go in deeper, but it's your show.
Well, no, it's our show, meaning it's our community show. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I would love for you to share with us, what is it that you think is one of the major mistakes that we keep making in our community that's sabotaging us?
Well, one of the things is faith-based. A lot of things we're always waiting for a savior and a leader to lead us. That's the first mistake. And instead of looking inward at ourselves and leading by example. Now, another thing that hinders us is the political process of how the things work. We love yelling at the machine, but it's like, well, you know what? You can run for office. That's the only way to hurt these people now, is to run for office. Hold them accountable and protest and letters. That doesn't work anymore. We need to vote them out. No, we need to run against them. Now, even voting them out is working anymore. But that's the only way. And then education comes from the key about this world of politics. I called him civic education as number one priority because I tell these people all the time, the most powerful tool the white man has is the ability to create and change the rules.
Yeah.
You could be a billionaire in China, but you could get thrown in jail with all your money if you don't have access to the government, influence of the government systems. Number two, you need to know how these systems work because, the politicians that are black like us, in order to stay in power, they do things very simply. Free toys, free school supplies, free
Barbecue.
turkeys, free barbecues. Yeah, Clyde Burns, Congressman Clyde Burns, I was shocked. Famous fish fry. So you throw some fried fish at them in South Carolina, and they're going to vote for you supporters, boss.
Yeah.
So, and then once you start seeing all this information and how education really works, and you say to yourself, wait a minute. For me personally, politics become personal because I know for a fact mostly all the black men I encounter in the political realm of space, professionals, no jail, no drugs, no baby mothers, all of them went to Catholic school or private school and or send their children to Catholic school or private school. So when they closed 7 Catholic schools last year in the Bronx, and one of them was my alma mater, St. Angela, I said, I'm done with the Democrats. The Conservative Party, and I kept it moving in that fashion. And just lead by example. And you'd be surprised to know when you look over his shoulder how many people are following. So
Now,
just looking, waiting, and watching.
I'm going to take a dive into the danger territory here. What do you say to some of the people in our community that says, we can't work with white folks?
Oh, wow, that was very direct. I love it. You see, the whole time I'm thinking I have to answer all these women questions and how to solve the problem for all the black women. So I was really prepared for that.
A lot of black women that I work with, they have this interesting perspective that we can't work with white people. That they're the reason for all of the calamities in our community.
All our life's problems and
all
things
of
that we
life's
destroy
problems.
ourselves. Yes.
So this is a very black woman kind of question, to tell you the truth.
Oh, sorry. What do I say to those people? Because I'm in my old grad school's computer lab, like I said earlier, so I want to make conscious of the noise. What do I say to black people that have that mentality? I said, well, number one, school choice. If you don't want Becky or Karen dealing with your kids, teaching them the white man's history, other black stuff, you want critical race theory, pull them out and homeschool themselves. Oh, Dion, these parents can do it. Wait a minute. You want the parents to be empowered. You just told me that in this PTA meeting in public school and the board. So if the parents say they want homeschooling, what's the problem? Why don't you think they can do it? Here's information, about single parents that can do it. Here's my information, Here's the funding, here's the cooperative, here's the community that's going to help them. If you feel such a way, now it's up to you. Because I always say, and I told kids at my old high school, the only thing that you can change in life are things that's within your control. And the first thing is yourself. If you can't do it, it's so easy to everybody else is a source of life's problems. And if you want to be black all day, every day, that's the first step. Number two, economics. So civic engagement education's here. Education, fine. Economics with the money. Okay. You about that life? New York City. We have a black-owned bank. Did you know that? And the black-owned bank is on 125th Street. And it's called Industrial National Bank Harlem. That's my bank. So if you're about that life, maybe you should leave Chase alone. How's that sound? You could play about Chase all day, every day. So why don't you take your money and put in this black-owned bank if you're about the white man, this, that, and the third? Okay, that's interesting. So you know what else? If you're tired of your boss and the white man, this, and the third, let Dion help you start your own business. Not your nonprofit, because that's a gimmick that will control you. Let me help you, because you know what? Just like you know what? You can do it too. Because you know what? All those black women did when they couldn't go into the job with those little dreadlocks. You know what they did? They started opening their own businesses. And of course, capitalism had the course correction. All the multi-billionaire industry was like, oh my God, we can't have this exodus. And so now it's time for that diversity, equity, inclusion. Now it's called diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Now it's called diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And we got to empower our Black women. And oh, yes, let's do it, y'all. Come on, y'all.
So
Yeah, because I just want to be conscious of your time because you said 25 minutes and
yeah.
I gabba.
So yeah, so now to pull everything together, you know, what is the one thing that perhaps we haven't covered that you think is critical for us to understand as we move forward as a community? Black, white, purple, men, females. What is
Well, what I had prepared for is one of the questions you asked me in a survey is what problem you see Black women facing? And so the one that came to mind as personal for me is mental health and hygiene. And that's the, once again, what's in your control, so you think, because that's something that's kind of not in your control, because I'm in that space of mental illness and hygiene personally. And that's when politics became personal in New York City, when Mayor de Blasio and the First Lady, Black woman Charlene McCray, had the Thrive mental program, where I knew at the time early it was just going to be a money grab and a resume builder. So that's what I want to know. Mental illness is something that we have to talk about and do something productive about. And I'll just reiterate my testimony before the city council, which I thought was a gimmick until politics became personal as issue. And I said, well, the problem was this. If you want to solve mental illness in New York City, you gotta team up with SUNY Stony Brook College, because at SUNY Stony Brook, it has the psychiatry department. And that's not a dirty word, like dentists and podiatrists and all that kind of stuff. And you team up with SUNY Stony Brook College, and you just pump out more Black psychiatrists. That's it. That way, this becomes a lifestyle. They can study the science. They could properly diagnose because they didn't pass the socially inclusive sensitivity training, and they could be productive member shop. Now, here's how again: you already have a CUNY medical school. You already have all colleges. Team up with the private school sector. Give them access to this, and they will pump out psychiatrists like no other business. And if you take the private school sector and just keep going with it straight through, you'll be spending on Black psychiatrists like nobody's business. And then they can be the forefront of this problem. I don't need any social workers. I don't need a nonprofit. I don't need more pharmacies. How about that? Because now they're going to have people like you and me say, hey, you know what? There's actually something called a holistic doctor with psychiatry. And instead of prescribing medications, they'll tell you a simple solution like this. You know what? If you're manic or have hypermania like me, why don't you do like they said back in the day? Why don't you just take a cold shower? Oh my God, a cold shower. Therefore, it's like, no, think about it. A cold shower is natural. You breathe in that cold air and you can do it. You don't have to even tell anybody. But guess what? It's a problem. It's free.
Well, that's why I would push back on the whole idea of tapping into your psychiatric realm, because all they're about is pushing drugs. That's all they're about. And it's so important for us to recognize, as you were implying, which is that mental health is something that needs to be addressed holistically. Because when you're talking about mental health, you're not just talking about a checklist, which is what psychiatrists and psychologists are using. You need to look deep into a lot of different factors pertaining to, number one, things like neurotransmitter production, looking at gut health, looking at blood sugar regulation, looking at sleep, looking at community, looking at all the foods that we eat. Oh my gosh.
No, don't
get me started.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. You're 100% correct. But you see, I'm doing what people would know and understand on the surface, which is psychiatrists and those doctors. But if you want to get deeper in that, you're absolutely correct. Because being a part of this community and learning and being aware since 2021, I'll give another shout out to Plant Powered Metro New York. Because Plant Powered Metro New York has something that was amazing for me when I discovered it, which is something called a 21-day jumpstart. Now, this program is everything I prayed for in life, which is they teach you how to cook, I don't know how to cook. They go with you to the farmer's market and they give you access to the community, like a 12-step program. You're all supporting each other. You're just talking consistently in this realm because that's what the community is. And it becomes a lifestyle, a habit. Instead of
Exactly.
just being on your own and you have to
Yeah.
go with your friends and family over here who
Yeah.
are not too productive in that realm.
Yeah.
And then again, number two, they also have the medical component with I think it's SUNY Downstate Medical School, and what you do could provide me a blood work and I'll see before and after and some other things. Then you meet doctors like Dr. Carolyn, who I met, and we talked about that. We talked about cannabis solutions as well, CBD oil, CBD cream, very open-minded. And also there's a network of holistic plant-based MDs, DOs, and the other part I think you'll know as well, in which they do go into those systems medically for the science and then wean you off the medications. Because for me, example, my blood pressure pill went down and my doctor was surprised at the results. And then I knew certain things as well. So that's a shout out to Plant Power Metro New York, but it goes into all those things. But most importantly, your own education. You have to do your own research.
Exactly.
Like me, when I go to the doctor, it's like going to the supermarket. I know what I want. And I push back. I just had a Black female, what they call physician assistants, discharge me. So after I saw her and she had such an attitude because, and that's the own people, because I just simply said, you know what? I miss Dr. Joseph. And I'm just sitting there. So well, if you need to see Dr. Joseph, you could go upstairs. But I was like, well, I didn't mean it like that. Next thing you know, I left my appointment. Ring, ring, ring. I'm sorry, Mr. Powell, but Dr. So-and-so doesn't want you to, be a patient anymore. We got to put you in the system. And I was like, really? I'm a nice guy. What did I do? I didn't blow up or anything like that. I took the L because it would help me. And now instead of going to the South Bronx office, I go all the way downtown to Chelsea. How about that? I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to curse the Black woman, the most disrespected known character and known Blackness of space, but just keep it moving. It is what it is. I mean, I'll fill out whatever survey comes before me and I'll type it up, not to waste my time. Maybe I will write a letter. How about that physically? But it just got to keep moving. But one thing I tell these kids is that you always just got to stay focused.
Yes.
You have all this noise in the background, Dr. Umar Johnson, shout out to him. I would agree with one thing with him. He said in an interview before he blew up to this other Black academic in the interview, he said, you know what? He believes that no matter what, as a psychologist, if any teacher in the education system, whatever it is, breaks through to one child, that child will move heaven and earth for education to succeed. And I believe that wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you for joining us because you have such a powerful message about self-empowerment, even to the point of saying, hey, jump in a cold shower. You have the ability to choose. You have so many different options. You can fire your MD. If they want to act all stank with you, that's okay.
Is that a medical term? Act all stank? I just need some empowered money. How about that? Being a holistic helper and having a wealth of knowledge doesn't necessarily make you wealthy when it comes to finances. So, I'm also a consultant too, by the way, and not all whole thing. If you will.
Well, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding the links in the notes so that you guys can get in touch with Dion through Blexit and also through his consulting firm. Because, as I said, you have the power, ladies. You have the power in every area of your life if you choose. Because the other message that he brought us was that it's easy to blame other people. It's another thing to step up into that zone, to be present and to say, you know what? I'm going to focus on what I can do. And this is what I can do. Maybe we're going to run.
You're good, but you're figuring something very important. Number one, I'm single. But the most important thing you got to remember is don't be afraid of your own culture and its nuances and pariahs and that kind of, because you're up against your people and the Black Wall of Silence. You may act a little bit different, and then all of a sudden your home people, your own family. I love Trump. Your whole family will turn on you. You got to be ready to lose certain things, like sacrifice to get a free thinking, independent mind, and then most importantly, break the Black Wall of Silence to voice your opinion with factual information that might encourage others who feel that way but are scared to speak up because they might lose access, or maybe they might have people feel some sort of way about them. So that's another thing that you have to first face in your own African-American adversity of the others.
So be courageous, my ladies. And until next time, I leave you with our message of peace and blessing. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in for this episode of Mommy Heal Thyself. If you like what we're doing here, please share, subscribe, like us, and leave a comment. Your feedback is very